Well, good afternoon and welcome to our webinar today, Change Management for Product Development. My name is Rob Romanowski with 3HTI, and I'm joined today with Brad Pastuca from PTC and Jim Gilmore also from 3HTI. And what we're going to do today is we're going to have a little bit of an overview on change management, specifically within a PTC solution called Windchill. So everybody's going to be on mute during the presentation. If you have any questions, please type those into the dashboard, and we will answer them in the question and answer session at the end. And this webinar should last about 30 minutes, so not too terribly long today. First thing I want to do is launch a poll just to see where everybody is concerning change management right now. But what best describes your current change management process? If you can answer these, this will definitely help us out with how we detail the webinar. I'm going to give this about 5 more seconds. All right, one more harmless, painless question. What is your prime interest in today's webinar? What are you looking to learn? What are you looking to take away? Something that you're looking to improve within your organization? All right. Well, thank you everybody for participating. So at this time, I am actually going to change the presenter to Brad Pastuca, so Brad can take us through everything. Brad, you have the con.
Awesome, thank you very much. Okay, let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Windchill Change Management, there it is.
Awesome, so thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate the introduction there. But I wanted to formally introduce myself once again. My name is Brad Pastuca. I'm with the Virtual Center of Excellence within PTC. I'm a virtual pre-sales engineer, and I'll be taking you through today's walkthrough of Windchill Change Management at a high-level overview. So let's take a look at some slides, and we'll start off with some challenges of today's environment. So a lot of times the complexity of the products are becoming much more, much more powerful, much more complex, a lot more data hanging off of everything that you're working on. So you need to make sure that you are able to work with the changes accordingly if there are any changes that are going through the enterprise. So the slow, inefficient change processes today become much more tedious because there's so many different moving parts. And also you have the difficulty in identifying the data that's requiring the change. So oftentimes you hear of companies going through changes that's not on the most relevant or the most up-to-date information, or you're just missing pieces. And that's never a good thing because then you have to go back, and that makes for more rework and more changes in the long run. Ultimately, a lack of visibility to the change status or data. This comes a lot with disparate systems. So in terms of maybe working with changes in an ERP system, working with them manually over maybe a system that you have in place that's kind of homegrown, it becomes tough to understand where those changes are occurring, what systems, and how to ultimately reconcile those changes between the different systems. And lastly here, ERP or MES systems typically out of sync with engineering. Those systems are more so kind of down the road, whereas Windchill is more of a work in progress type of system. And those are the synchronization between the two aren't always there, and becomes again another hassle that you have to deal with when you're trying to go through some of these complex changes. And some of the implications due to those challenges is really lack of alignment due to the poorly understood in-process changes. So people could be coming into the change process and not really understanding what's being changed or how it's being changed, what's actually necessary to do. And this can lead to delays with the multiple systems of record, as I mentioned, with potentially different processes in different systems. It becomes a bit more complicated. And then also increased scrap or lower quality due to this poorly understood changes. So if you're not understanding exactly what you need to be doing, then the change might not be done in the most proper fashion. So our solution to that is our change management within PTC Windchill PDM link. And what it allows for is a scalable, tailorable change process. And the ability for all of the users that are in Windchill that have access to that information, they will be able to see exactly what it is that's being or undergoing the change, have access to all the relevant information that is necessary for it, and the change process is much more streamlined. The ability to have enterprise visibility into that change status and data, as I mentioned, so not just the engineers are viewing this information, but also the other enterprise folks within the company. And then lastly, the change management across Windchill and external systems. So you can have the change management within your work in progress systems such as Windchill, and then that can be populated or propagated to the external systems such as an ERP system or an MES system. And then lastly, wanted to quickly talk about the value of our Windchill change management within PDM Link. So it provides a faster, more accurate response to internal or market pressures when you need to quickly iterate on a design or push a new design out. Then you can have a much more quick response to the market pressures. Increase the change management efficiency, so a repeatable process. You have a much more standardized process. And it becomes much more streamlined because you have everybody that's standardizing on one single process and one single system with access to all of the relevant information that's necessary. You have organizational alignment around issues, priorities, and plans, and then ultimately traceability from issue to resolution. That's a very big key point there, is that you have the product traceability, the change traceability, so that you can take a look if there's any auditing that needs to happen. You have this ability to quickly go back into the system and understand exactly what was changed, when it was changed, how it was changed, and ultimately why it was changed. And then lastly, increased product quality. So if you have this enterprise visibility to the change process and you have more eyes that are taking a look at the information, and you have more throughput from your whole organization, and that allows for better developed products. Then lastly, customer and supply chain participation. So really having more eyes into the information and being able to have much more thoroughly developed type of product. So with that said, I would like to go ahead and move over into the demonstration of the software. We'll take a look at what it looks like within Windchill, and then we will talk about that as we go through. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start off here within Windchill under Dave, the design engineer. And so you see in the upper left-hand corner next to the Windchill symbol, we see that we're working on a brake assembly in its design state. So we have our kind of metadata or attribute information being populated within Windchill. We have our structure tab open, so we have our part structure listed out here on the left-hand side and our visualization of exactly what we're looking at. So again, that enterprise visibility becomes much more apparent when you have this visualization that's throughout, and it's much more easy to basically put a name to the visualization. Okay, so we're going to come over here to the Changes tab. Now the Changes tab is going to have all the history of any of the changes that are associated to this specific brake assembly. So we have issues and variances within Windchill. We have 3 different change objects, and those include problem reports, change requests, and change notices. These are out of the box, as I should mention there. So the issues and variances are going to be the problem reports. Change requests are listed out here, as well as the change notices. So all that information is now traceable right back to the specific part in which it was created upon. So if we click on the information for the problem report itself, we see that we have attribute information hanging off of it, But if we want to take a look at any of the attachments, so this could be PDF files, it could be picture files to help describe the problem that's at hand, okay? So this could also stem from a quality type of approach, and you see that being populated here within the attachments. You can also see that we have associated annotations. So being able to redline within the Windchill system, specifically our Creo View tool, you see that we have the ability to attach these and associate these to the problems at hand. So you're really pulling in the product information, but then also adding on top of it this red line that makes a picture's worth 1,000 words, being able to visually understand what needs to be changed and being able to pull this up very quickly. Okay. Now, if we go to the affected end items, we see that we have some more information here. So this is another big component in that you want to understand the change impacts. So when you have a change to a specific component or some lower level subassembly, you want to understand what that's going to impact in terms of the end items or the sellable goods or the top level assemblies. You understand what that change impact is going to be. Now, since these were already created within the Windchill system, these change objects, as you might have noticed, the associated process objects here are listed out below. So we have the change request and the change notice also being linked directly to this problem report for quick and easy access to both, or really all three of the objects if necessary. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the change request. So now we have changed kind of the context in which we're looking. So the change request is a little bit different than the problem report in that it has the proposed solution. How are you going to go about actually correcting this problem or really understanding what can be done in order to mitigate this error in the long term? So if we go to our annotations, we can really directly describe that just by looking at another red line that was created in order to understand how we're going to go about fixing this issue. And that's we're simply going to redesign the brake disc to reduce the amount of heat generation so that that overheating issue no longer occurs. Okay, so we're going to close out of there. We now understand that as the design engineer. We can take a look at all of the affected objects that are listed out here. So not just parts, but we have some CAD documents. We even have some SolidWorks in here. So, kind of a multi-CAD environment within Windchill. And again, we have our affected end items and our associated process objects. So now we're going to take a look at the change notice. Now the change notice differs in that, let's go and take a look at that page. So the change notice differs in the terms of the implementation plan. So the implementation plan is a way in which you're going to have different tasks assigned to different users so that they can complete those tasks to ultimately complete the change or fix the change or fix the issue at hand so that that can be moved along into the process. Now under the hood of Windchill, there is the workflows, the out-of-the-box workflows that basically will send out tasks to the specific users that need to do them in a timely fashion so that you can complete this in a much more streamlined approach. You're not waiting for having to sign off on a piece of paper by multiple in a linear fashion. You can have sign-offs that are happening simultaneously, and it makes it much more quick and efficient in terms of the change process. Okay, so we see the description here as update the CAD model, drawing, and the bill of materials of the brake assembly to solve the problem of the heat dissipation. Let's take a look at the process as I was talking about the workflow built into the Windchill system. So here we see a quick visualization of the workflow processes that is running under the hood of the Windchill system. So everything that is in gray has been completed. And then everything that is no longer gray is to be determined at that point, has not gotten to that state yet. And if it's in green, as you see, sync on CA complete, that is the current step that we're at right now. So we need to get through that step, excuse me, And then ultimately, we can close out the change and get to the point where we can audit the change for approval. One last thing I'd like to point out here is all the process details according to this process manager. We have much more information hanging off here that could be pertinent or very helpful in terms of the change management process. Okay. So now we've taken a look at the process that's running under the hood of Windchill. As it's sending out those tasks, you will also get emails that are tied to your corporate directory, and those emails will notify you and give you a link directly into the Windchill system that will allow you to quickly gain access and be able to work with your day-to-day activities. Okay, so now we've switched over to the implementation plan. Now this is a plan, as I mentioned, that we're in the process of completing. You'll see that the update CAD model, it's all assigned to the same person here. Now that might not be, this is for demonstration purposes, but this could be for multiple people, multiple disciplines, multiple roles within the enterprise. It's not just for the design engineers, it could be for electrical engineers, it could be for purchasing, it could be for procurement. Many different disciplines can be involved based off of the complexity of the change at hand. So you'll notice that the states, next to the eyeball button there is under resolved for both the update CAD model and republish the representation of the drawing. Those have already been completed. And you'll see that on the right-hand side, we have the sequence 1, 2, and 3. So in order for the republishing of the representation to be done, the updating of the CAD model had to be finished first. So we have the ability for sequencing throughout the change process. So we see that those are resolved. Let's take a look at the update CAD model change task as it was completed. So just taking a look from a outsider's perspective, we see that we have our affected objects and also our resulting objects from this change. What that means is, so we go from the revision of A to B, and let's take a look if we wanted to compare the information of the brake assembly itself, we can compare the related documentation. So we have our CAD documents, so we have an A.8 going to a B.1, and we have our content here for a brake assembly going from A.9 to B.1. Okay. So now that we've taken a look at that, let's take a look at the assembly and open that up within Creo Parametric. So as we open this up within Creo, we see that the redesign has been done. The redesign was to add in the pattern of holes to help dissipate the heat throughout the brake disc as well as the brake pads themselves. So you see that pattern put in place so that the redesign has been completed, has been resolved. So now let's go back to the change notice task that was still in the unresolved state. We still needed to make modifications, and that was to update the bill of materials for the brake assembly. So what we can do is we can open the task assistant. This basically acts as an anchor point so that you can make sure that you're on task with what you need to be doing. You have the task and the subject line or any comments that you wanted to add in based off of what you're completing. We select on the change task, that takes us directly to the task that's at hand, and that is for the updating of the bill of materials for the brake disc. So here we see within our affected objects, we have our A.3 brake assembly part in its manufacturing view. So let's go ahead and open that up. And what we can do is we can open that up within our MPSE. And as we do that, we open the Manufacturing Associative Structure browser, and we see that we have some things that are out of date and not reconciled within the manufacturing view of this bill of materials. So we see on the left-hand side visualization that we have the patterns that we put in of the holes, but on the right-hand side, we do not have that. We need that to be updated for our manufacturing so that when manufacturing, they're getting the most relevant information that is as important to them so that we're not spending time with reworking or having a bunch of scrap. And what we can do is we can view this in the equivalent part structure on the right-hand side, and it opens it up for us directly. So now what we see are the 3 manufacturing items here, and on the left-hand side, you see the design. If you notice, there's green check marks for everything else, but there's little clocks for the 3 objects that we have selected currently, the 3 parts that we have selected. So what we need to do, that's letting us know, that's signifying that, hey, there is something that is up with these. They are not currently pointed to the latest iteration for each of them. So what we can do is we can right click on that and we can update to the current upstream equivalent. So the upstream in this instance is going to be the engineering bill, and the downstream in this instance is going to be the manufacturing bill. We need to update the manufacturing bill based off of the upstream equivalent BOM. All right, so now that we can do that, now that we've done that, we can go ahead and view, and we see that currently the updates have been made, and what we can do is we would like to perform the check-in from here, and we're going to apply that to all of the objects or parts that were currently checked out. All right, so now that we've done that, we can see that we've updated the bill of materials. We're going to complete our change notice task. You'll see that you get assigned a set of instructions so that it can help you perform the change or whatever's being asked of you in that regard. And you can also add in comments that can be recorded and stored within the database of Windchill. So the BOM has been updated, and let's go ahead and complete that task. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sign in under a different user, Pat, no longer Dave. Pat is a product manager who's going to be auditing the change notice that we've just completed. So we noticed we had the 3 implementation tasks. We've completed all 3 of them, and now it has the workflow under the hood of Windchill is now going to send that task off to Pat, the product manager, who is part of the change process. He's going to be the one that's going to approve and review this audit change notice. So you can accept the task, and now we can take a look at the auditing of the change notice. So instantly we can see that we have an impacts tab. That is exactly what we want to understand, is what is this change going to be impacting as an auditor. We want to know, okay, well, we have this brake assembly CAD document, we have a drawing here as well, and we also have some parts that are going to be changed. So let's go ahead and open the Task Assistant so that we are, again, on task at all times. And let's go to the brake disc, or excuse me, the brake assembly here. So we notice that in Windchill, it's always constantly telling you status updates and knowing where and how to get to those. So we see that we have an icon here letting us know that this 8.9 version is no longer the latest iteration. If we see in the upper left, we go to latest in all red, and let's click on that. That will take us to the new B.1 revision that we've created. Okay, and if we go to the changes, we see that it's resulting from a change notice that the brake pads are overheating. That's in our changes tab. Let's go click on that, and we can understand a little bit more as to what the change notice was in store. All right, so we see our implementation plan. It was resolved for all 3. We see the sequence as we've gone through before. And we see on the right-hand side, the reviewer, excuse me, is Pat, the product manager. That's who we're signed in under currently. All right, so let's select on the update of the bill of materials. And we see that we have our brake disc and parts. We want to go ahead and set the effectivity for each of those. So we can say we want this qualifier to be exact, and we want it to start on a specific date. So we want these parts to be effective at this specific date from then on. So it's another great piece of functionality within Windchill that allows for effectivity to be set within the change management process so that these parts will become effective after a certain date, and you can also have an end date there if you'd like as well. Okay, so now that you've set those, we can go ahead and we want to set the state for each of these to be the release target so that these can be sent off to manufacturing once more. Okay, so now that we can go to our task completion, we can add in our comments letting us know that this is done, and we can go ahead and complete the task. Once we complete the task, the change will be released into the Windchill system, and then the information will be in that new version, the B.1 or the the new revisions that were created based off of that. Okay, so that is pretty much the management process within Windchill at a high level. Again, you have the 3 different change objects. You have the the problem report, change request, and a change notice. By no means do you have to use all of them, but out of the box they are there. They follow a CM2 change process. It's a standard process. The out-of-the-box workflows really allow you to standardize on a system such as this, and allow the ability to allow everybody the ability to gain quick access to what's being changed and the most relevant information at your fingertips. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over back to Rob. Thank you very much for your time and cooperation, and I'll go ahead and pass it over.
Thanks, Brad. Nice job. If you have any questions, please type those into the question box. But what I wanted to do first was ask Jim Gilmore if he wanted to add a couple things to from his experience with customers and what he's experiencing with Windchill and change management processes.
Well, as we saw in the opening slides, a lot of people are doing this manually, paper, email, other. There are people that use Windchill, but they use it like Intralink, where they use it for PDM, product data management, check-in, check-out, rev control. This opens up all of your, and again, this is not just for CAD. I have insurance companies that do insurance documents and insurance policies that use this. I have a publishing house, several publishing houses in New York City that use Windchill for content management. Okay, so the one thing on the technical side from a CAD data management perspective is that wasn't stated clearly, is that when you click on a part, I think you had maintained, Brad, that you, I forget what you called it, affected, parts that are affected. When you click on a part or a sub-assembly or a document or anything else, you can see where it's used. So that gives you an idea, can I change this, or do I want to make a copy of this part and modify that and create a new part? Okay, and then after all of this was done, Brad did show that this manufacturing can be notified if they're using Windchill, but also then that can go into ERP or your manufacturing execution solution. So this is as simple as PDM, but as complex as a total comprehensive product lifecycle management. We didn't get into the lifecycle gates. There's an upfront, there's a work in progress, there's engineering, there's sustained engineering, there's release to production, and then there's obsolescence. So, I'm working with another customer right now that uses this for warranty. So, their customer service people access Windchill and they can see, what parts are updated through a warranty program, et cetera. Like if engineering or manufacturing has made a change due to an engineering change notice, a lot of times this is lost to those people. They don't have access to that information. They're automatically notified, or that data is readily available to them at that time. But that's pretty much it. What kind of questions are you seeing, Rob? Any questions?
No, we don't have any questions at this time. I think that Brad did an excellent job. But we also understand how, I guess, sometimes I guess concepts can be maybe a little intimidating at times. Maybe you got to go back to the drawing board and think, get back with your team and have more of a discussion. But if there's anything that you need more detail, we're more than happy to dig deeper and help you guys improve your processes. So you can contact us at info@3HTI or call us toll free. It's a toll free number here on the screen. Or I know that there's a lot of you on the line that know Jim, so you can contact Jim directly, and he is extremely knowledgeable in helping companies improve these processes. So feel free to contact us at your leisure. This webinar has been recorded. I'm going to be uploading it onto our YouTube page sometime today, and everybody will receive an email with a link so you can watch this at your leisure. So with that, we are going to be dismissed, and that's going to conclude our webinar for today. So I want to thank Jim and Brad for being with us today, and most importantly, you, the audience. Thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.